Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central. And here's your host, Bob
Welcome
Hickey.
to a special election edition of Foxborough Central. I am Bob Hickey, your host, and I'm so glad you took the time to sit and talk with me as we listen to Chris Mitchell, our candidate for selectman, tell us about why he is going to be the best candidate. Chris, it's a great honor to have you here with us today. I've known you for a long time.
Thank you.
And I've finally gotten you in front of my camera.
Yeah, I finally get my mug.
You get the mug, that's right. You
for.
know you're in town politics if you have my mug. Actually, not my mug on the behalf of the volunteers here at Foxborough Cable Access. And one of the great things that we're able to offer all the candidates for elected office who are running is a venue to talk about themselves and why you feel you're best qualified. So I'm so happy that you took the time to be with us to share with our listeners and viewers here in Foxborough Central why you, Chris Mitchell, would like to be a member of our Board of Selectmen. Chris, have at it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's something that I've always wanted to do. Last 10 or 12 years, it's been on the bucket list. And this go around, Mrs. Mitchell finally said yes. So I wore her down. I feel I'll bring a lot to the board and to the town. Been heavily involved in service and helping others in this town for my whole 25 years that I've been here, 26 years. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's
well, of course, Chris, maybe 12 years ago is when I was selectman, and maybe I made you angry enough to make you want to run and do something about it. So,
that might have been the time I was thinking of it, Bob.
If I did nothing else as selectman, I motivated you to run. So there you go. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. But of course, you and your lovely wife Paula and your family live here in town on Spruce Street, and you've been so involved with so many different things here in Foxborough. It always has felt to me as though you were part of the community's fabric. And I use that term a lot, but you are one of those people who's always been a leader and always been part of it. From the 9/11 memorial we have in front of our public safety building. I still have my sweatshirt, my Foxborough Never Forgets sweatshirt, my sticker on the back of my truck. Yeah. That was a great project that you did.
Yeah, it was. It was a great community project. It's so much help. I mean, from the stickers and the sweatshirts and you know, all the volunteers that helped build it, Sully and Chris McNamara and you know, John Rhodes and Mike Johns, just so many. There were over 60 volunteers that built that, so that was amazing.
But the key thing on that is you led the project, and you didn't mention yourself, of course, because you don't typically do that, but you brought in so many different people from the construction and the design and the donations and the fundraising and the government process you had to go through to get the space, get the permissions. It was just truly a phenomenal undertaking. I remember how hard you worked, including the float in the Founders Day Parade and the publicity and all the work you did. It was very tireless, and our community is far better for it, for all the work that you did.
There were a lot of hurdles that we faced with, you know, finding a location, and I made sure the Board of Selectmen had 2 members on that. Paul Feeney and Linda Walsh were on that, and the police chief. And it seemed like we, every step forward, we hit a roadblock and had to have a workaround from the funding. You know, we couldn't have people just make the checks out to the town of Foxborough. I had to start Foxborough Never Forgets, a nonprofit group, and at the time too, Paul Mortensen was on the board, and he volunteered to do all the legal paperwork for that. So it was just a huge effort, and one of the biggest hurdles was the piece of steel that we ended up getting from the World Trade Center and the insurance bonding that I needed to drive down to New York and pick it up. Randy Scollins and Andy Gala helped me out tremendously on that. So big involvement with every facet of town government to get that done.
And it's interesting you mentioned some of those names. I, of course, had the honor to serve with 3 of those folks, Paul Feeney, Linda Walsh, and Mark Sullivan, and then I had the honor of being beaten in an election by Paul Mortensen. So what that goes to show is that...
I didn't mean to bring that a bad subject up,
it's all good, because it goes to show that people who are involved and people who care about the town do, if they get permission from their significant others and families, step up, and if they have time to meet the civic needs. So good for you for taking the plunge here. So as with any election and any candidacy, we should be promoting the candidates. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Of course, if you look on your screen, you can see the fly-in graphic. But if they want to learn more about your candidacy, Chris Mitchell, you can go to www.chrismitchell4foxborough.com. and that is F-O-R, and then Foxborough spelled the company way, F-O-R-F-O-X-B-O-R-O. You can Google it up. I found it very easily myself. And they can also email you, Chris. Is that the best way to get a hold of you if they have any questions? Or they want to host a coffee or anything else? Go to email at mitchellforfoxborough@gmail.com. Did I get it all in right?
I believe you did.
Well, that's my job as a host. And then my other job as a host is not to talk so much and let you talk. So why don't we let you talk? Now, when I knew you really well, and it seemed like I was in your kitchen just about every week as we're doing one project or another, you were our scout leader with Troop 7 here in Foxborough out of the Bethany Church. But also you did many other things, including you owned Fertilon, the landscaping company. But you're no longer doing that anymore. I know that your sons, Johnny and Patrick, are both aged out of Scouts, Eagle Scouts both. And,
both Eagles,
And how's the family doing, first of all?
Everybody's good. Everybody's good,
I saw Erin the other day holding a sign.
Yep. She's doing good. And my stepdaughter, Michelle, and my granddaughter, Abby, they're doing well. Everybody's good.
That's great. So, and Paula gave you permission, so let's just have at it.
She did. She did.
So what are you doing now for a living?
I have a phenomenal job. I work for Homes for Our Troops. It's a national nonprofit, military nonprofit. We build brand new homes for severely injured veterans post 9/11, anywhere they want to live in the country, mortgage free.
Wow.
So it's a very rewarding job. I started there about 3 years ago as a fundraising coordinator, and then got promoted to supervisor of community outreach, and now I am deputy director of corporate partnership and community engagement. And the job description, when I first read it, it basically read like my resume of everything I've done in Foxborough for free.
Community service, working with the different agencies.
And what we do is, and what we do is
I can see you doing
wherever we're building in the country, we go out and find the Bob Hickeys or the Chris Mitchells of that community to help us put on the events and rally the town or the city that we're in to help welcome these veterans home.
Fantastic.
Yeah, well, so it's very rewarding.
It's a good cause and much needed, apparently. The issues we have here in Foxborough are not so far removed from that. I remember back in the day, Carl Cush always working and promoting, and Mike Johns, who's a wonderful veterans agent with us now, who also was a part of the Troop 7 family.
One of the better, probably the best scoutmaster, as long as Ernie Guy's not listening. Mike was a great leader, still is a great leader in his role now in the town. Well,
of course, our friend Ernie Guy was my first scoutmaster there, so always a good time with Ernie. The other things that you do right now in town, I guess along with that charity, fundraising, giving back to the community theme, is you're a member of the Partners in Patriotism.
I am.
Charitable Trust?
Charitable Foundation.
Charitable Foundation, thank you.
Yeah, it was great. There's myself and 12 other citizens of Foxborough. It's a great opportunity to continue to help other people in town, whether it be from Eagle Scout projects like you're familiar with, or somebody needing a hand up, or it's just a great way to give back. Really good.
Well, I know the Kraft family, Bob Kraft and Jonathan, and the entire organization up there made a huge commitment to Foxborough. How much is it a year that they?
It's $100,000 a year.
That's probably harder to do than it sounds.
It's very hard to give away $100,000. You get all sorts of applications. Some are I mean, they're all good.
But you want to do right.
And we want to. And it was a good concept. They wanted to give back to Foxborough, and who better to do it than 13 residents of Foxborough that they really have their hand on the pulse of the town. So it's a great mix of people that are on the board. I know, I had known a few of them, became friendly with, all of them now, and it's a great thing that they're doing.
Well, we've had them in here, the fantastic Jess Annis and Jeremy Smith have been in here talking about the Partners in Patriotism, and we've also had some of the community members talking about how the startup happened, and so it's great to hear that it's actually blossoming the way it was intended, and that it's becoming not only a reality but having a positive impact in our community. Yeah,
it's good. Like I said, it's just another way for me anyways, being on that committee to continue to help out people in Foxborough.
So speaking of helping people in Foxborough, and again I'm talking with Chris Mitchell, who is a candidate for one of the 2 seats that are going to be up for election here at the May 4th town elections, and I know we'll see you out at the Ahern Middle School anytime between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. I know Kathy Brady's waiting to take your votes, so come on down to the polls and make your voice heard. But before that, we're going to talk a little more, and as we do that, what are some of the burning issues? I mean, there's so much going on in town. There's the renovation or the replacement of Town Hall. There's the master plan. What are some of the things that really float your boat right now that you're passionate about?
Well, Town Hall, you know, we've learned from our past mistakes of not maintaining buildings, and Town Hall's a prime example of that. They've put in a
$3,000 roof will go a long way.
They're definitely they're moving on from that, and they're, you know, in this year's budget they're funding positions for, you know, townwide maintenance person, which is great.
Similar to what we have with the schools, with formerly Michael Leary's position. And that you know, the level of coordination he was able to bring, and the economy of scale, because he could do one thing across the entire environment as opposed to taking each piece piecemeal. So yes, that's
and you have to protect, you know, your investment, your asset. You would do the preventative maintenance on your home. So
like I said, a little $3,000 patch in your roof goes a long way. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth. You can speak. Maybe you dislike this or disagree with me, but I think Bill Keegan is a fantastic addition to our town. Yeah,
from the few times that I've met him and talked with him, he's phenomenal. And I'm glad with the town hall, they're, you know, deciding to keep it in the center of town. It really needs to be in the center of town. And, you know, we've approved the money to design it. We saw at the selectmen's meeting a few weeks ago the preliminary plans. They look good. And then it'll, you know, put it out to bid, and it'll go out to the voters to decide.
So going back to my day when I first started seriously thinking about running for selectman back in 2002, it just seems like yesterday, but 2002, I got on my horse and buggy, and I would go to the various meetings. I assume you've been doing that?
Yeah, the last few weeks I've been, I mean, I've always watched the selectmen's meeting, would go occasionally.
I remember when you would watch me and you'd get mad at me, or you'd
and I'd call you up.
Well, once you did, I thought you did something good. But
so yeah, I've been going. I went to the last one at the high school. I'll go tomorrow night. Gone to the last couple of AdCom meetings. You know, we have some great boards in this town that just volunteer and do some amazing things. So hats off to all the volunteers on any of the boards that we have.
So with those things that are currently going on, and you're, you know, getting your finger tight on the pulse, give me a top thing of what you would want to really accomplish in the one of the 5 selectmen seats.
Well, besides lowering my tax bill.
Well, there you go. There's a lot of votes right there.
You know, a $3.3 million increase. You know, it's a lot. I mean, taxes have continually going up, so that's one thing I want to really put my finger on.
Foxborough is one of those great communities that people don't really realize the burden that many of the other communities have, because we're sort of indemnified against the economic downturn right now. The state says they are so far below water with tax revenue that there's going to be some significant cuts. I know that Governor Baker held to the state's commitment to fund this year's budget, which is great, and that's what should have happened. And many kudos to Governor Baker for doing that. But next year it could be a little tight. And Foxborough is pretty much inured to that because we have all that great development up on Route 1 and also in our industrial park to a lesser extent. So I guess with that, you're talking about the budget increases above and beyond the Proposition 2.5 maximum increase, in addition to all the revenue growth, because people are probably saying at home, well, you can only go up 2.5% because of Prop 2.5. That's not true, because with new growth, that's new revenue, and that's above and beyond the Prop 2.5 increase. So when you're talking 5%, that's it's real not money. That's a real increase.
Yeah, and it's not 2.5% of your property value. It's the entire town's property value. So yeah, it just seems every year, you know, the more we get in, the more we spend. And we just, at Homes for Our Troops, we just cut $2.2 million out of our nonprofit budget. So,
so there are some realities out there that Foxborough probably shouldn't be too comfortable with.
Yeah.
That's a good message.
And, you know, things like the master plan coming online, I mean, that's a phenomenal plan that we need to spearhead. We need to get more people involved. I was at the last master plan meeting that they held, and the biggest thing I left there with was getting people involved. They want people to get involved with that plan and keep that plan, not on a shelf collecting dust somewhere.
Well, I know the planning board has been leading that, but Sharon Wasson, our town planner, with all the work that she's done as far as publicizing it, putting information online, what was it, a 12-part series in the Foxborough Report, as far as, I can't remember exactly how many weeks, but it seemed like every week there's a new piece of the master plan in there for citizen input. So a lot of credit goes to that way of thinking about transparency and garnering interest and feedback. So that's something that it would be nice to see what the next step is.
Yeah, and like I said, it would be great to get some new blood. Great opportunity for somebody that wants to volunteer. It's a brand new committee, hopefully, that'll get put together and get some new blood going on some of these committees.
Well, speaking of new blood, I am, of course, talking to Chris Mitchell, who is a candidate for one of the 2 seats on our Board of Selectmen. You are the challenger to the 2 incumbents, and I want to remind folks at home that they can find out all about Chris. If you can't find him at a coffee or find him on the Common on one of our Saturday morning standouts, you can check him out online at www.chrismitchell4foxborough.com, not the number, spell it out, F-O-R, or you can email him at mitchell4foxborough@gmail.com. I got it all. Right? Very good.
Yep.
So, Chris, we're so quickly running out of time, but I don't want to miss anything. There are a lot of other issues that are coming up. We've got water and sewer. We've got the town clerk tenure question on the ballot. Do you have any thoughts on these?
Yeah, when I first heard about that, like many did in the local newspaper, I thought it was kind of crazy. But then I watched Bob when he presented it to the selectmen, and I was like, you know what? It kind of makes sense a little bit. I was at the AdCom meeting when he presented it there, and I think what he's doing is in the best interest of the town. He could have gone the appointed route. It would have cost the town more money. Bob's he's been a great clerk. He stepped in when we really needed him to as the interim town manager. And
he really did. People forget that. People need to know that Bob Cutler filled 2 jobs and did them well. And people really, I think it's one of those things where if you do a really tough job really well, people don't realize. Kind of like Jacoby Ellsbury in center field. People kind of accepted it, but now that he's gone, boy, was he gone.
But if you watch that selectmen's meeting, him explaining it, he explained it the same way to the AdCom. And, ultimately, whichever way anybody goes on it, it's going to be up to the voters to decide. So, but Bob's a great guy. He's a good asset to this town.
Chris, I'm going to give you the last word. We're so out of time. I know you're going to tell people to vote for you, but I'm going to tell them first to go out to the polls on May 4th. It is a Monday. It's going to be a beautiful day. Even if it's raining, it's always a beautiful day in America when you get to go vote and make your voice heard. At the Ahern Middle School, from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. And then be sure to join us for live election coverage here on Foxborough Cable Access as Bob Hickey, your host, takes you to the polls as we interview the candidates after a long day of sign holding and looking for your vote. And we get to listen to the election results live together right here on your favorite Foxborough Cable Access channel. So until then, Chris, leading up to the election day, what's the message?
I hope everybody, like Bob said, come out and vote. I haven't missed an election since I turned 18. It's definitely your civic duty. Everybody needs to vote. You really have to exercise that right. Don't just say, well, I'm busy that day. And I hope you vote for Chris Mitchell. I think it's time for a change in the Board of Selectmen, and I think I am your change. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much, Chris, for taking the time to join us and share with our viewers. On behalf of all the volunteers at Foxborough Cable Access, we want to thank you for taking the time to join us. We hope you'll watch us again, and if you missed any part of this program, always feel free to check us out on the web at www.fcatv.org. Click on videos, click on Foxborough Central, and you can see me again. Until then, folks, have a great day, Foxborough.